The massive council chamber buzzed with excited chatter. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy gathered to hear the news everyone had waited a century to hear. Admiral Do-Yun, tall with smooth gray skin and forearms, stood at the central podium. His voice boomed through the hall. The Void Collective retreats to their home system. After 100 years of war, victory is within our grasp, he announced. The chamber erupted in cheers. Species that had once been enemies now celebrated together as part of the Hegemony Alliance. Their advanced quantum weapons had finally turned the tide against the hive mind creatures that had threatened to consume all sentient life. Counselor Tae-hee, whose crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights in rainbow patterns, raised her hands for quiet. Tomorrow we plan the final attack. The war that has claimed billions of lives will end, she said. In a quiet corner of the massive space station, Science Officer Sun Ho hunched over his monitoring equipment. His large eyes blinked rapidly as he studied unusual readings from an unexplored sector. This can't be right, he muttered. The sensors showed signs of advanced technology from a planet the charts listed as uninhabited. He tapped his communication device. Counselor, I've found something strange. A planet showing signs of civilization in Sector 87. Tae-hee's voice sounded annoyed. We're about to win the war, Sun Ho. Can't this wait? The energy readings suggest they might have useful resources, Sun Ho insisted. After a pause, Tae-hee responded, Very well. Send Ambassador Hanbin to make contact. If they're primitive, offer them protection. We need all the allies we can get. The next day, Ambassador Hanbin's sleek silver ship approached the blue-green planet. From orbit, he could see lights of cities spanning continents and primitive spacecraft circling the world. Interesting, he said to his crew. They've achieved spaceflight but haven't expanded beyond their moon. His communications officer opened a channel to the planet's leadership. Hanbin was surprised when the response came quickly and in clear, galactic standard language. This is General Yoonji of Earth's United Defense Force. We've been observing your approach. State your intentions. Hanbin smiled. Their translation systems must be quite good. I am Ambassador Hanbin of the Hegemony Alliance. We come in peace to offer your world protection and membership in our galactic community. A brief silence followed before General Yoonji responded. We accept your invitation to meet. Please, land at the coordinates we're sending. When Hanbin's shuttle touched down at the military base, he expected to meet primitive beings awed by his technology. Instead, he found himself facing a disciplined group of military officers led by a sharp-eyed woman in a crisp uniform. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador, General Yoonji said. We have many questions about this war you're fighting. Hanbin felt uneasy. How did they know about the war already? He hadn't mentioned it in his transmission. During the meeting, the humans asked detailed questions about Void Collective tactics, hegemony weapon systems, and battlefield strategies. These weren't the questions of simple primitives, but of experienced warriors. Your species seems quite focused on combat, Hanbin observed. Carefully, General Yoonji's face remained neutral. We've had much practice. Earth has seen thousands of wars throughout our history. We understand conflict on a fundamental level. When Hanbin returned to his ship that night, he sent an urgent message to the Council. These humans are technologically behind us, but their understanding of warfare is unique. They think in ways neither we nor the collective do. They might be valuable allies. Counselor Tae-hee's response was dismissive. We don't need help from primitives. The war will be over soon. As Hanbin's ship departed Earth orbit the next day, he couldn't shake the feeling that the Council was making a mistake. There had been something in the humans' eyes when they discussed strategy, a combination of creativity and ruthlessness he had never seen in any other species. 3 days later, the Hegemony launched what they believed would be the final battle against the Void Collective. They didn't know that the humans had already begun preparing for war, or that they would soon change the galaxy forever. The grand hall of the Hegemony Council gleamed with polished metals and strange crystals. Counselor Tae-hee stood at the center, addressing the gathered representatives with confidence. These humans are centuries behind us, she said. waving her crystalline hand dismissively at the holographic image of Earth. Their ships barely reach their own moon. Their weapons use primitive projectiles and chemical explosives. They would only slow us down in the final battle. Admiral Do-Yun nodded in agreement. Our quantum weaponry will end this war. The humans can join our alliance after victory as a protected species. Far away on Earth, Commander Mirai sat in a dimly lit war room, watching the recording Ambassador Hanbin had shared of the Void Collective's attacks. Unlike the hegemony officials, she saw something deeply troubling in the footage. They adapt too quickly, she told Earth's Security Council. The hegemony fights with perfect formations and advanced technology, but the collective learns from each battle. They're evolving. An older general frowned. This isn't our war, why risk human lives? Mirai stood up straight. Because if the hegemony falls, we're next, and they will fall unless we help them. After heated debate, Earth's leaders agreed to a compromise. They would send a small team to observe the final battle while secretly preparing Earth's defenses. 3 days later, Captain Ji-Ho and his team of 12 human military experts boarded the hegemony flagship as diplomatic observers. The massive alien vessel dwarfed anything humans had built, extending nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Admiral Do-Yun greeted them with polite indifference. You may watch from the observation deck. Please stay out of the way of our crews. Ji-Ho bowed respectfully. We appreciate the opportunity to learn from your advanced tactics. As the massive fleet prepared for the jump to the Void Collective's home system, Ji-Ho and his team studied everything. They noted how the hegemony ships arranged themselves in precise mathematical formations. They observed the chain of command, the communication protocols, and most importantly, the predictable patterns in everything the aliens did. They're too perfect, whispered Lieutenant Sumin, watching the pre-battle drills. Perfect means predictable. When the fleet emerged near the collective's home system, thousands of hegemony ships faced the dark, organic-looking vessels of the enemy. For a moment, everything was still. Then the battle began. At first, it seemed the hegemony would win easily. Their quantum weapons tore through the first wave of collective ships. Admiral Do-Yun smiled confidently at the human observers. Watch how superior technology ends this war, he said. Ji-Ho nodded politely, but his eyes narrowed with concern. The collective ships were falling back too easily, almost like they were... It's a trap, he shouted suddenly, breaking protocol. They're letting you hit them to study your weapons. Before Admiral Do-Yun could respond, the second wave of collective ships appeared. These vessels looked different, their hulls covered with strange, shimmering fields. When the hegemony fired their quantum weapons again, nothing happened. The beams of energy simply disappeared into the shimmering fields. Impossible, gasped Do-Yun. The collective ships swarmed forward, now immune to the hegemony's most powerful weapons. The perfect formations broke apart as alien captains panicked, their carefully planned battle strategies useless. On the observation deck, Ji-Ho turned to his team. We need to get to the communication center. Now. Fighting their way through the chaos of a losing battle, the humans reached the ship's communication hub. Ji-Ho pushed past protesting alien technicians and opened a direct channel to Earth. Commander Mirai, the hegemony is losing. The collective has neutralized their quantum weapons. Prepare for war. Back on the bridge, Admiral Do-Yun watched in horror as his fleet was decimated. Ship after ship vanished in explosions or went silent as the collective's boarding parties took control. Ji-Ho approached the Admiral, no longer the respectful observer. Your technology failed because you're too predictable. The collective studied your patterns and created a countermeasure. What can we do? Asked the defeated Admiral. Ji-Ho's expression was grim. Fall back to Earth. We'll show you how humans fight. The remnants of the hegemony fleet limped back to Earth, a shocking sight for humans who had never seen alien spacecraft up close. Massive ships, some damaged and trailing debris, filled the sky above major cities. Admiral Do-Yun's flagship, once pristine, now bore ugly scorch marks along its hull. In an emergency meeting hall, Commander Mirai faced the alien leaders. The Hegemony Council had traveled to Earth in desperation after losing 2/3 of their Fleet? Our quantum weapons are useless, Admiral Do-yoon admitted, his forearms drooping in defeat. The Void Collective has adapted to everything we've developed. Counselor Taehee's crystalline form dimmed with distress. We have no choice but to hear what these humans propose. Mi-Ray stepped forward. The human commander looked tiny next to the alien leaders, but her voice carried strength. The collective defeated you because you fight like machines, she said bluntly. Perfect formations, predictable attacks, standard responses. The hive mind analyzed your patterns and created perfect counter. What alternative do you suggest? Do-yoon asked. Mi-Ray smiled. Chaos, unpredictability, human warfare. In the days that followed, human engineers led by Daewon began retrofitting hegemony vessels. They installed analog backup systems, mechanical controls, and simple radio communications, technologies the aliens had abandoned centuries ago. These systems are primitive, complained a hegemony engineer as Daewon installed a manual firing mechanism for the ship's weapons. Primitive, yes, Daewon replied, tightening a bolt. But the collective can't hack what isn't digital. Sometimes old is better. Meanwhile, Commander Mi-Ray taught alien officers about guerrilla warfare, ambushes, feints, and psychological operations, concepts, foreign to species that had relied solely on technological superiority. In human history, superior technology doesn't always win, Mi-Ray explained. The determined, creative underdog often prevails. Some alien officers resisted. This is undignified, one complained. Random attacks without proper formation? Pretending to retreat to lure enemies into traps? These are the tactics of primitives. Mi-Ray's eyes hardened. These are the tactics of survivors, and right now, survival is what matters. 2 weeks later, the first human-led strike force launched its mission. Captain Hyun-woo commanded a small fleet of 10 ships, 5 human vessels and 5 retrofitted hegemony cruisers. Their target was a collective outpost near the edge of human space. The standard hegemony approach would have been a direct assault with overwhelming force. Instead, Hyun-woo divided his small fleet into 3 groups. Group 1 will approach directly, making noise, attracting attention, he instructed. Groups 2 and 3 will come in from opposite directions using the asteroid belt for cover. We attack from multiple angles, never following the same pattern twice. The battle began with Group 1 broadcasting contradictory signals, creating electronic confusion. When collective ships responded, they found themselves unable to predict which targets were real and which were decoys. Now, Hyun-woo ordered when the enemy ships clustered together, trying to form a defensive pattern. Groups 2 and 3 emerged from hiding, attacking from unexpected angles. The collective ships, used to the hegemony's predictable tactics, couldn't adapt quickly enough to the chaotic human approach. After 3 hours of fighting, the outpost fell. It was a small victory, but significant. The first hegemony win since the collective had neutralized their quantum weapons. How did you know they would concentrate their forces like that? Admiral Do-yoon asked Hyun-woo after the battle. I didn't, Hyun-woo admitted. I had 3 other plans ready depending on what they did. Humans don't just follow one strategy, we improvise. As news of the victory spread, more hegemony commanders sought human advisors. Earth's factories worked around the clock, producing simple but effective analog systems that could bypass collective countermeasures. But the enemy was learning too. Each battle grew harder as the hive mind adapted to human unpredictability. After their 5th victory, Hyun-woo received a disturbing report. The collective is changing its strategy, he told Mi-Ray. They're ignoring hegemony targets and focusing on our ships specifically. Mi-Ray nodded grimly. They recognize the real threat. Now, we've bought some time, but they'll be coming for Earth next. The massive Void Collective fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system without warning. Their dark ships resembling giant insects, numbered in the thousands. Earth's early warning systems blared across every continent as military commanders rushed to battle stations. Commander Mi-Ray stood in the Global Defense Center, watching the holographic display with grim determination. They've ignored all other hegemony worlds and come straight for us, she said. They recognize humanity as the true threat now, Admiral Do-yun's 4 arms worked frantically over the control panel. Even with our combined forces, we are outnumbered, 5-1. Earth's defenses cannot withstand such an assault. Mireille studied the approaching enemy fleet. Unlike previous battles, the collective ships moved in irregular patterns, mimicking human tactics. They're learning from us, she observed. We need something they won't expect. In the back of the room, a quiet voice spoke up. What about the moon? Everyone turned to look at Yuna, a civilian mechanic who had been retrofitting communication systems. The moon? Mireille asked. Yuna stepped forward nervously. The collective targets technology, right? What if we make them think our moon is our primary weapon? A giant planet-sized weapon. Within hours, the plan took shape. Across Earth, civilians joined the war effort. Programmer Jun Ho led a team that hacked into every satellite orbiting the moon. Factory workers produced simple analog transmitters, by the thousands. Farmers opened their lands for emergency landing zones. As the collective fleet approached, Earth implemented Yuna's desperate plan. Thousands of transmitters activated on the lunar surface, creating a massive energy signature that overwhelmed collective sensors. From their perspective, the moon appeared to be powering up as a gigantic weapon. The enemy took the bait. Half their fleet broke formation, surging toward the moon to destroy the perceived threat. The moment they committed to the new course, Mireille gave the signal. Hidden shipyards around Earth's orbit released thousands of small fighter craft, each piloted by a single human. These tiny vessels were practically invisible compared to the massive hegemony ships, and they swarmed the divided collective fleet. Don't engage directly, Mireille commanded over the radio. Hit and run, target their sensor arrays. The battle for Earth became the most destructive conflict in human history. The collective ships that reached the atmosphere bombarded cities and military bases. Bright flashes lit up the night as hegemony cruisers fought in Earth's orbit. The ground shook continuously under the distant impacts. From her command center deep underground, Mireille coordinated the desperate defense. Cities fell. Millions died. But humanity fought with a fierce determination that surprised even their hegemony allies. Why do they keep fighting? Admiral Do-yun asked as reports of civilian resistance came in from devastated regions. Their major cities are destroyed. They should surrender. Humans never give up, Mireille explained. It's our greatest strength and our greatest flaw. In laboratories beneath the ocean floor, scientist Se-jin worked frantically to complete humanity's last hope. The prototype disruption device was designed to target the one weakness of the collective, their hive-mind connection. The quantum field is stable, Se-jin reported over a crackling communication line, but we need to get this device into the center of their fleet. The range is limited. Above, the battle had turned desperate. Earth's atmosphere burned with falling debris. The moon's surface showed new craters from collective weapons. The human fighters had taken heavy losses, and the remaining hegemony ships clustered protectively around the command center. I'll take it, Mireille decided, strapping the disruption device to her chest. Prepare my ship. As she climbed into the small fighter craft, Admiral Do-yun stopped her. This is suicide, he said simply. Mireille smiled grimly. Sometimes that's what victory costs. She sealed her helmet and launched toward the heart of the enemy fleet, carrying humanity's last hope. Commander Mireille's small fighter craft darted between the massive collective ships. Laser fire streaked past her cockpit as she pushed the engines to their limit. The disruption device strapped to her chest hummed with energy. Its countdown already started. 20 seconds to activation, Mireille reported through the static-filled communication channel. Clear all human and hegemony ships from Sector 7. Admiral Do-yun's voice came through broken and distorted. Mireille, the device might not work. Pull back while you still can. She didn't respond. Her fighter weaved through the heart of the enemy fleet, heading for the largest ship. The one sensor, data suggested, contained the central node of the hive mind. 10 seconds, she counted. The massive enemy vessel loomed ahead, its surface covered with strange organic-looking technology. Smaller collective ships moved to intercept her, but she was too close now. 5 seconds before impact, Mireille hit the emergency ejection button. Her pilot seat blasted free from the fighter just as it crashed into the collective flagship. The disruption device activated in a silent burst of quantum energy. For several seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then, across the battlefield, collective, ships began to drift aimlessly. Some turned and fired on each other. Others simply powered down. "It worked!" Scientist Si-Jin shouted from the command center. "The hive mind connection is broken." Mireille floated in space, her survival pod's oxygen supply dwindling. Through her small window, she watched as the once unified collective fleet fell into chaos. Some ships continued fighting, but without coordination, they were easy targets for the combined human and hegemony forces. A hegemony rescue ship found Mireille an hour later, nearly out of air but alive. When she returned to the command center, cheers erupted from humans and aliens alike. "The collective vessels are in disarray," Admiral Do-Yun reported. "Many have shut down completely. Others appear to be fighting among themselves." "What's happening to them?" Mireille asked. Si-Jin studied the readings from the disruption device. The quantum field severed their hive-mind connection. Each ship, possibly each individual, is experiencing independence for the first time. Mireille looked at the tactical display showing the broken enemy fleet. "Open a communication channel to all collective vessels," she ordered. When the channel opened, she spoke clearly. "This is Commander Mireille of Earth. Your hive mind has been broken. You are individuals now. You have choice. Those who wish to live in peace can power down weapons and follow our escort ships. Those who continue fighting will be destroyed." For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, one by one, collective ships began powering down their weapons. Not all. Some continued to fight and were quickly overwhelmed, but many chose Mireille's offer. 3 months later, Mireille stood before the new Galactic Council. The chamber, rebuilt after the war, now included a section for human representatives. Councillor Taehi had stepped down, replaced by younger leadership more open to change. "The galaxy stands at a new beginning," Admiral Do-Yun announced. "The Void Collective no longer exists as a unified threat. Thanks to humanity, former collective members are learning to live as individuals." Mireille looked around the chamber. Former enemies now sat together, working toward peace. Even some former collective beings had joined the council, their once identical appearances now modified to express individual identities. "Humanity brought more than war tactics," Do-Yun continued. "They brought a new perspective, that enemies can become allies, that individuals matter, and that there is always another choice beyond victory or defeat." As Mireille accepted the galaxy's highest honor, she thought about the cost. The scarred Earth, the millions lost, the cities still being rebuilt. Victory had come at a terrible price. But humanity had not just survived. They had changed the course of galactic history. "We came to the battlefield last," she told the assembled representatives. "But we brought something the collective never expected and the hegemony had forgotten. The human spirit that finds a way forward when all paths seem closed." The council, chamber filled with applause as representatives of 1,000 worlds rose to honor the species that had turned certain defeat into a new beginning.